In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to another episode of Marketing in the Age of AI, and I'm excited today to talk with an expert on the security side of AI and how we can leverage tools, various tools to stay safe as the number of people trying to grab and steal and spoof continues to increase, and we have to be aware of that as marketers and as business professionals. And so I'm very happy today to invite to the podcast Benjamin Bohman. And thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Emanuel. It's great to be on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So let's see, you have a pretty good history of just general tech, right? You started out before AI. So give us a little background about what it was like when you started out in business.
Yeah, just a little bit before AI. So back in the early 2000s, I was working at Denny's, and I didn't even own a computer. I just wanted to make money, and I was hearing everyone getting their MCSE. And I was reading a newspaper and saw a course and classes for MCSEs and signed up, went through the course. And that's how I just kind of got started in computers. In fact, my first computer job, working on Windows NT or Windows Nice Try, what I would do is I would work in a server room, but at that time, again, I never even owned a computer at my home. So it was an interesting way of getting into technology, but I learned I was very hands-on, and as long as I can do it, I can learn it. If I have to read it from a book, I'll never learn it. Yeah. But if I can do it, which AI has some relevance to that kind of learning style as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. So for me, the security side is all like total black box. So I always hire people to do that because, right, like me and my team, we're concerned about creating campaigns and then tracking and lead generation. So how is it that you found it is to work with CMOs or marketing managers, and how you're able to guide them?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple different ways. So when you're talking marketing is really always at the front of like the cutting edge of technology. And I think their focus sometimes, I won't say it's misguided, but sometimes it gets too much into the whiz bang and they start talking too much about technology. But this isn't just marketing, right? So if you talk about CMOs marketing, or even if you talk about sales reps and VP of sales, they really get caught up into the technology. But I've always said people, processes, and technology. And I think in marketing, it's the same. You have to understand the people, and this actually would make sense in marketing, right? You understand your people you're marketing to. What is your target audience? You understand the processes and everything of what you're trying to speak to. And then you speak to the technology last. But I think sometimes we jump too much into the technology too quickly and forget about the people that we're talking to.
Well, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And I think we're seeing that again in kind of another round in this decade of poor marketing or lazy marketing.
Yeah.
And exactly that there's a big group of people who are not trained marketers but have access to these tools now. And so they're pushing out massive amounts of content, but it's misguided and it's spray and pray, and it's weak, and I can't believe it's very effective.
Yeah. Well, it's lacking the human touch, right? And I think that with AI, and I'm a huge proponent of artificial intelligence or the framework of artificial intelligence, but it is better. I would say it's only good with a strong human touch with it. Now, I do think it makes us as humans better with our job. It can make us quicker, more efficient. But if you're just spitting out marketing, like you said, and you're just spewing out all these, if you want to call it SEO blogs or marketing material, But again, you forget about the human touch as far as the people you're talking to and empathizing and relating to it, which are good marketing techniques and practices. Then yeah, they're going to lose their way. And I think it's opening the door for some people to take advantage of it, but they'll be sifted out. It's recognizable. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so you've had a pretty long tech career starting in the early 2000s. What are some of the missteps that you've seen, or best worst case scenarios that you've seen security wise?
Sheesh. Well, security's grown so much since I started. When I started in technology, I really had to worry about my firewall, my web filtering, and antivirus, and that was pretty much the essence of my security ecosystem. And now there are so many different attack vectors. There are so many different ways of getting in, and then you have social engineering. Now you throw artificial intelligence into the mix as far as advanced social engineering and other aspects of what artificial intelligence can do. So I would say the biggest advancement is in both defense and in the cyber attackers is the many ways that you're having to defend and the many ways that they can open the door for an attack. It's just not single threaded anymore. And that's why I always talk about a defense in depth approach to cybersecurity. You can no longer just have a firewall and think you're going to be okay.
Right.
This is antiquated because it's a signature base, it's on or off, but viruses, not viruses, but infections and attacks work behaviorally now. And that's why artificial intelligence is a great mitigator for ransomware attacks and cyber attacks, because it's looking at behaviors, and it's not only able to do it off of a single behavior, but off of a multiple large amounts of behaviors across a network. And you think about what that could be in one network, it can be overwhelming, but artificial intelligence has a way to look at that.
How much of the work that you do is about training people versus how much you're helping them with just building software tools for them?
Yeah, I'd say across the board with technology, it's a lot of it is training people. And then when you get into cybersecurity, I think the human element, and we call that layer 8. It's a IT joke, layer 8 OSI model, but that is the most vulnerable element. I think 75% of attacks happen at that point. So you have to spend a lot of time making sure that your users and people understand how to get in and how to recognize threats and phishing attacks and things like that coming in. Out here in Las Vegas, this was interesting. It was last June, so almost a year ago, there was someone called into the cage of a casino. I don't know if you read this, and I won't throw the casino under the bus, but called into the cage of a casino and convinced someone in that cage to take $200,000 out of the money cage and drive it to a gas station in Las Vegas, right? $200,000, and that's
Wow.
social engineering. And so if you think people aren't going to convince through an email someone to open an email, something that simple, right? Remember, they convinced someone to take $200,000, put it in a box, drive it across Las Vegas to a gas station. So it just shows how vulnerable we are as humans. Now think about AI and the way artificial intelligence can now mimic human voice. It will soon mimic human videos. I do a video of an avatar, me speaking 12 different languages, but there's a lot of setup to it. Pretty soon there won't be a lot of setup.
Right.
So the social engineering aspect of AI and cybersecurity is very intriguing, and I think it'll need to be addressed.
Yeah, wow, that's an amazing story. I hadn't heard that one, but I would like to meet that guy who's that good of a salesman that could draw somebody out with 200K.
You got to make connections, right? You got to be like, I know so and so who knows so and so. You got to have all this stuff dialed in. You got to slowly get it. But wow, yeah, that's crazy, huh?
Well, so as marketing professionals, what are kind of the top things that, from your perspective, that we need to pay attention to in terms of security and cybersecurity?
So right now, I think there's a lot of key like buzzwords that are out there in cybersecurity, and it's kind of evolving. But I would say staying on top of, from marketing, stay on top of what, again, artificial intelligence is doing, staying on top of new things, like, or stay on top of like the NIST structure and frameworks. CTIM is another framework. And so understanding all, and I guess Gartner is really a good place to start, right? Gartner puts out a lot of the beginning, like acronyms and definitions of stuff. So I think for marketing is just staying on top of the newer things that are coming out, but really starting to understand what is relevant, what is new, and again, how is it impacting the business? And I think that's the biggest thing. If I was a marketer and I were to want to talk about something intriguing for a listener or a viewer or a reader or whatever it is you're marketing to, I would want to know, how is it impacting the business? How is it impacting the people? And in what ways could it very negatively, adversely impact? Or again, from a security standpoint, what is new and innovative ways people are coming out to proactively stop these things?
Gotcha. And so StrataShield is your company, and what's kind of the core offer that you have?
So StrataShield AI's core offering, we do cybersecurity, of course, that's part of it. But really what we've shifted to is data and AI. And what we've realized is that right now with all this movement to AI and artificial intelligence, it starts at data. Data is the lifeblood of an organization. Data is AI's oxygen, if you will. And so we start with that. We start with cleaning the data, organizing the data, make sure the data lakes are communicating across the board. Then we move into the analytics and we make sure that you have both reactive and proactive analytics. Then we go into custom AI, generative AI, and then conversational AI. So we've really developed a great flow for an AI framework in business. And then cybersecurity is just part of that conversation, because always what you're asking is, how are you securing that? Okay, so you have the data, how are you securing that? You have the people, how are you securing them? You have remote workers, how are you securing them? So I think that's a natural part of it, but we have really shifted a focus into AI. And I will say that I feel like I have built, I think, one of the strongest AI ecosystems from a partner, vendor, and consultant standpoint that I think is in the industry right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now you're in Vegas, so is the casino industry part of your client base, or is that just where you're living right now?
So right now, that's where I'm living. It's interesting. I haven't had a lot of conversations with casinos, but before that, I was a national engineering director for Comcast Business, and they had just purchased a company I'd worked for called Masergy. And I wasn't based out of Vegas, so all the relationships and everything I built was outside of Las Vegas. I am working with a couple companies here in Vegas, but not in the casino industry. And I do know from when I have worked in Las Vegas, the casino industry and that hospitality industry, it's a pretty tight-knit industry. I think they have their vendors that they go to and their vendors that they shy away from, and getting on that vendor list takes time, but who knows? I think eventually it could happen, the right conversation. But my focus is actually outside of Nevada overall.
Gotcha. And then, so are all your solutions custom made, or do you have some that are off the shelf, or how do you work these AI tools?
Yeah, so it depends. They're both off the shelf and custom. When you get into the custom AI portion of it, then that is custom. And what I'm seeing is a lot of businesses, or every business, is very unique now, and there's no AI across the spectrum. So there's not an AI program that works for everybody. And so there does get a time where it might be in automation, it might be in reporting, it might be a specialized CRM, or whatever it is that a customized application is needed. But I also partner with companies like Cinco, RapidScale, Ikigai Labs, Senchi, so a bunch of other partners, and over 50 other vendor partners I've developed, so that when a business comes to me and it's like, hey, this is what I'd like to do with AI, I first can say, yes, it's relevant, or no, that's not going to happen. Right. But if it is relevant, now I know who to bring it to. So I know the people who are doing it, the people who can complete it with a good, if you want to call it, day two support system. So it's not just purchasing, but it's implementation and day two support with it. And that's really my focus, is making sure that it's not vaporware, that when a company wants an AI application, that it's usable and it's a valid application.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? And there's, software's been calling on databases for as long as there's been software, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dynamism and the input of external databases, right? Like the weather or Google searches, or whatever, the things that the 3,000 data points that are being tracked every day. I think that's the conceptual part that most people don't understand, is how much data is out there, like just from the credit card bureaus, right? About the humans that you want to interact with, and then how to bring that data into a piece of software so that it is actually AI driven and it's valuable to the company also.
Yeah, I love that point, and I think that's such a huge point right now. Is currently or previously, and I'd say still more currently, businesses are really looking at reactive data, and that's data with inside their ecosystem, so data that they've collected, and then they're saying this just happened in Q1. Now let's react to it. But now, like you said, we can take all the internal data if it's clean. So we have to make sure your internal data is clean. We can take all your internal data. And then retail is a perfect example of this. I think this is a great example. And let's say even like a gas station, and you're looking at stocking your shelves. And how do you look at that? Well, now you can start looking at events that are in the area. You can look at past and present events. You can look at weather patterns. You can look at the airport traffic in and out for visitors, depending on the location. You can look at regional events and all those different external data. And it can help you actually stock your shelves and be more timely with the stuff that's coming in. In fact, I read a stat that said 25% of revenue is lost globally and annually due to unstocked shelves in retail. And so, yeah, I think that's a great use case for it. But across the board, you're 100% right. And this goes just very wide, is using external data now to help with predictive and proactive analytics is the way we're headed. And I think that's an exciting part of AI, because now we can actually look at large data sets and quickly make conscious, I don't want to say decisions, but recommendations.
Right. Yeah. The humans still have to be involved in it, right? At this point.
Well, the humans have to understand what could impact. So there's all this data source, but you don't want to just throw a bunch of data in there. You still want to be methodical about it. And yeah, the humans who understand the industry will know, let's say there's a gas station that's right down the street from a major concert venue or from the Raiders stadium out here.
Right. Sure.
Well, you might know on game days that maybe Monster Energy drinks are selling out, right? Like you just have to look at stuff like that.
Right. Or that there is a forecasted rain event and it hasn't rained in 6 weeks, and you know you're going to need ponchos and umbrellas or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And this is, to me, again, and just revolving around the data. And this is why I start the conversation at data, because it's just so valuable to a company. And now the company's actually being able to use it, again, proactively instead of just reactively.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So whenever I hear custom software, I always think that's kind of like a mid-market or Fortune 500 kind of objective. I mean, are you starting to see that, these smaller $10 million a year businesses are able to get in and start fine-tuning AI software for their benefit?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of smaller businesses in the right use case that can use it. I know manufacturing businesses. I myself, when I was when I started in IT, and I talked about my background, I started with a company called Vision International, which was an international printing company, but we were around $15 to $20 million a year. And we wrote custom and purchased custom applications at times for print. And I think now you're seeing this, it's coming back. And yeah, absolutely. If the budget is there, it's not overly expensive. It's not too expensive. It can be budgeted correctly. But what I do say, whether you're a Fortune 500 company, a mid-enterprise, enterprise, mid, SMB, whatever it is, make sure there's an ROI. And you talk about some of the mistakes people have made in the past, and one of those is moving too quickly. Right. I've done that myself as a director and leader. I purchased something and recommended something too quickly, and something better came out a year from now. And we're going to see a rapidly evolving AI ecosystem, AI production system, AI productization, and it's going to be very rapid over the next year. So don't rush. If you're a small business, if there's an ROI and you can say, hey, I'm going to make money off this or increase revenue, increase efficiency, sure, absolutely, it's probably worth doing it. But if you're just looking at it, don't implement AI for the sake of implementing AI, because this rapid evolution that's going to happen, what we're talking about now is going to be completely different than what we're talking about a year from now, because it's going to just blow our minds how quick it's going to evolve, and new products and new solutions coming out.
Yeah, I think that's a really salient point in that Two things. One, I think it's exploded in the world of marketing, and I'm seeing new tools every single day, probably
Mhm.
every hour. So do not sign any contracts that are longer than month to month. That's the first
Yeah,
thing for SaaS,
yeah,
right? And then I love this idea, like you're saying, the leapfrogging that's happening, because I'm starting to see it, particularly on the lead generation and ad sales side, or
hmm,
pay-per-click ad side, where these new tools are coming out, and they're, there's, even as an MVP, as a minimally viable product, they're
yeah,
releasing these products that are 5 times as powerful as the legacy in the marketplace for a half or a third or a quarter of the cost.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
love that yeah, efficiency or sales, and I would just take a little bit of a difference and say, you want to be testing, right? Because we don't know exactly how the AI tools are going to help necessarily. So I say some low dollar testing should be how people get on the train.
I like that idea of testing, and again, that methodical approach. Another thought too is to start cleaning up your data. So ready your systems for AI. So you might not be ready now, but clean up your cloud, clean up your databases, clean up your data, do some data integrity work, do some data collaboration work, because this is going to set the framework for when you are ready for AI. It's going to make you a lot more efficient. And I know I'm working with AWS, with Azure, even with Google GCP, and they are throwing out major credits right now. So if we throw in, with a lot of companies, we're throwing in a data integrity, like cleaning up the data set, collaborating the data, making sure their databases are all talking together and coherent and secure, and moving them to one platform to another, and giving them major credits. So giving them major, again, huge cost savings, so that when those AI initiatives come in, that might be this fall, it might be next year, that their data is clean, it's usable, but they're also cleaning budget and room for the AI implementation. So AI readiness, I think, is a big deal right now.
I love it. Yeah, I'd love to see. I'd love to see an ebook on preparing data for the AI transition.
That would be a good one.
Well, good, Benjamin. Anything else that you should that people should know before we sign off today?
No, I think I would say, not reluctantly, that's not the word, but embrace AI, understand it, and it's going to happen. This change is, we're moving into the AI world. So start to understand it. Start to understand how it impacts your job. It's not going to take your job unless you don't evolve with it. But if you evolve with it, you understand it, you embrace it in the way that you need to embrace it, and reject it in the way you need to reject it, you're going to be okay. So I think we have a positive outlook, and it's going to be an exciting next 2 to 5 years to see what happens with it.
All right, and then how do people get in touch with you, Benjamin?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is on my LinkedIn page, of course, Benjamin Bohman on LinkedIn. And then you can go to my website, which is stratashield.ai. And then I've got stratashield.ai as my YouTube channel as well. But those are the 3 best forms. And always, yeah, feel free to reach out. I love having these conversations.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate your insight. And I'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes so people can get in touch with you.
Thanks, Manuel. I appreciate it. This was fun. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.